Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at Bezos, Musk, Jobs, and Gates. But not just their stories. We're really drilling down into let's say, the non-obvious systems they all kind of used.
Yeah, the shared playbook, almost how they built these companies that, literally changed the world.
Exactly. We want to find that operating manual.
Mhm.
Was there something consistent, whether they were selling software, rockets, or even books?
It's like the ultimate shortcut for you, the listener,
Yeah.
right? Because if you strip away the scale, the huge personalities,
Yeah.
you find this underlying mental architecture. It's surprisingly similar.
They didn't win because of some secret product then.
No, not really. They won because they played by totally different rules than, well, pretty much everyone else.
Okay, let's start right there. That mindset shift. Our sources kick off with Jeff Bezos back in '94. He's got this great, secure job at D.E. Shaw, super prestigious, total comfort zone.
Right. But then he reads the stat that the internet is growing 230-300% a year. Just wow.
And he has this choice, right? Stay safe, keep the great job, or jump.
Mhm.
Jump into this massive unknown wave.
And his famous quote sums it up. I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying.
That sounds reckless, maybe, but it wasn't.
No, not at all. It's a specific framework. It's something we see with all four of them, making calculated bets.
Calculated bets on asymmetric chances. I like that phrase.
Exactly. Unlimited upside if you nail it. But the downside, it's actually limited. You fail, maybe lose some money, some time.
But you can probably recover, go back to a decent life.
Totally. So not acting, not taking that shot when the opportunity is that huge, that's the bigger risk in their view.
That makes sense. It flips the script on risk.
It really does. And this thinking, it leads to these core foundational ideas we found across all of them.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, they all got that real success comes from building scalable systems, not just, optimizing what's already there.
Systems, not just salaries or promotions. Got it.
Second, timing beats perfection. They caught these huge waves, the PC, the internet, the smartphone. They didn't wait until everything was perfect.
And third, their unfair advantage, you could call it. This mix of
Deep technical understanding and sharp business sense. They weren't just suits. They actually understood the engineering, the code, the physics.
they could talk shop with the engineers and then walk into a boardroom. That's rare.
Very rare. And finally, maybe the most critical piece. Value creation first. Always.
Building something genuinely valuable, something that didn't exist before.
Yeah, obsessed with solving a real customer problem or creating something amazing. The wealth, the ownership that came after they created that value, it followed the system they built.
Okay, let's jump into the mental tools. The absolute game changer seems to be this first principles thinking.
Oh, absolutely. It's a direct attack on that dangerous phrase, well, we've always done it this way.
Right, the status quo killer.
Exactly. First principles forces you to just ignore all the existing assumptions, ignore analogies, you break everything down.
Down to what? Like the fundamental truths.
Yeah, the fundamental physics, the basic economics, what is actually true and possible, not just what people say is possible based on how things are done now.
The SpaceX story is probably the perfect example here. Musk looks into rockets. This is early 2000s.
And everyone tells him, okay, $65 million per launch. That's the price.
And he doesn't ask, can we make it 10% cheaper?
No way. He asks, what are rockets made of? Physically.
Aluminum, carbon fiber, copper, the raw stuff.
Right. And he finds out the actual materials cost maybe 2% of that $65 million price tag?
2%. So the other 98% is
Huh.
markups, old processes.
Pretty much. Decades of baked-in costs, supply chain complexity, profit margins stacked on profit margins. So his conclusion was radical.
Build it himself from scratch.
Right.
Based only on the raw material costs plus some margin.
Yeah, ignore the whole existing industry. And he figured he could cut costs by 90%, an order of magnitude. That's first principles.
That's completely different from analogous thinking, like saying we're Uber but for pets.
Totally different. Analogous thinking just iterates on what exists. First principles asks what could exist based on fundamental truths.
And you mentioned Bill Gates earlier. Microsoft. He didn't try to build better hardware.
No, he applied a similar logic. He saw the leverage point wasn't the box, the physical computer. That was becoming a commodity.
The leverage was the software.
Yeah.
OS.
Exactly. The system that controlled the hardware. That was the scalable piece. He focused on owning that system, let others build the commoditized parts. That's systems thinking again.
And this ties directly into the 10X approach, doesn't it?
It has to. If you want a 10% improvement, okay, you can probably optimize the current way, tweak things.
But for 10X, 10 times better, cheaper, faster.
You have to throw out the old playbook. You're forced back to first principles because the existing methods just won't get you there.
Like Tesla, the Model S. The consultant said, what, $70 K price, 200 miles range?
Yeah, the sensible targets based on existing battery tech and market assumptions.
But Musk demanded way more. 100 high, okay, but 300 miles range and faster than a Porsche.
Right. A goal so audacious it forced a fundamental rethink. They couldn't just buy slightly better batteries off the shelf.
They had to reconsider the entire battery supply chain, the energy density, everything.
Which led directly to investing billions in the Gigafactory. The 10x goal forced the first principle solution. It changed the whole problem.
Man, that requires looking way ahead. Bill Gates had that quote. Something about overestimating the next 2 years.
Yeah. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10.
So you can't just build for tomorrow.
You have to build for 10 years out. You have to state to where the puck is going to be based on those fundamental trends.
Okay, that long-term view feels like a good bridge to strategy. The third principle you mentioned, customer obsession.
Absolutely critical. The idea is if you obsess over your competitors, you end up just copying them. You get incremental improvements, maybe mediocrity, basically.
If you obsess over the customer.
That's where the breakthroughs happen. You're solving their real problems, anticipating their needs. That leads to pioneering stuff.
Amazon is the poster child for this, obviously.
Right.
That 97 shareholder letter from Bezos.
It's legendary. All about the customer, long-term value, growth, profitability. Those were secondary outcomes, not the primary focus.
But how do you actually do that? It sounds good, but making it real in a big company.
Mechanisms. You build systems. Amazon's working backwards process is a great example.
Right, where they write the press release first.
Yeah, before they even start building the product. You write the PR announcement. If you can't write a release that sounds genuinely exciting and clearly beneficial to the customer,
then the idea probably isn't good enough. Don't build it?
Exactly. It forces you to validate the customer value proposition from day one, solves a real problem, or just cool tech.
Okay, but here's where it gets interesting, looking at the different sources. Steve Jobs, he famously kind of ignored market research, right?
He did. He didn't put an empty chair in the room for the customer. He basically was the customer advocate. His quote is famous.
A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them.
Right. So how do we square that circle? Bezos is data-driven, customer obsession. Jobs is vision-driven.
Yeah, how do those fit together?
I think it's about the type of innovation. Bezos is incredible at optimizing the known customer needs: lower prices, faster delivery, wider selection. He uses data relentlessly for that.
Makes sense. Things people already know they want, just better.
But Jobs focused on insight, that visionary leap. The iPhone wasn't born from a focus group asking for a phone without buttons and a giant screen.
No way. That would have sounded crazy.
It came from Jobs looking at the current phones and having the insight. These things are terrible. He built the experience people didn't even know they could have.
Oh, okay. So maybe if you're improving an existing thing, 10% goal, use data, listen closely. If you're aiming for a 10x leap, a totally new category.
You might need to rely more on that deep insight, that vision of what could be. Data follows the vision in that case.
That makes a lot of sense. And that kind of visionary leap requires patience. Which brings us to the next strategy, long-term greedy.
Yes. This might be the biggest differentiator from typical corporate behavior, the obsession with the next quarter's earnings.
It kills long-term strategy, sacrificing decade-long bets for a tiny stock bump today.
These guys refuse to play that game. The dot-com crash in 2000 is the perfect crucible for this. Wall Street is screaming for profits, right? Cut costs, show us the money.
And Bezos does the exact opposite.
Completely. He doubles down, invests $300 million more into tech infrastructure, knowing it wouldn't pay off for years.
He actually said he was willing to be misunderstood for 7 years. 7 years.
Think about that pressure. But that investment, the one analyst couldn't crazy back then.
That became Amazon Web Services, AWS.
Which now generates, what, 70% of Amazon's operating profit? It's the engine of the company.
A 7-year chess game while everyone else was playing checkers for the next quarter.
And his logic, again, is so clear. He said, if you're willing to invest on a 7-year time horizon, you're now competing against a fraction of those people.
It's like a competitive moat built out of time itself. Most companies just can't or won't operate on that time scale.
Exactly. Instant elimination of 90% of your competition just by choosing a longer time frame.
Playing that long game, though, means you're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes. Which leads to execution principle 5. Fail fast, fail forward.
Right, it's not about avoiding failure. That's impossible if you're doing anything ambitious. The goal is to make failure survivable.
Minimize the cost, maximize the learning.
Exactly. Accelerate that learning cycle. Bezos has that great line, failure and invention are inseparable twins.
You can't have one without the other. Look at the Amazon Fire Phone. Huge flop, right? Lost $170 million.
A massive public failure. And Bezos' reaction wasn't, oh no, we messed up, let's play it safe now.
No, he basically said, if you think that's a big failure, we're working on much bigger failures right now.
Because they understood big attempts sometimes lead to big failures. It's the tuition fee for trying 10x things. And often, the learnings from those failures are incredibly valuable.
Didn't AWS partly come out of some failed internal projects?
That's the story, yeah. They built infrastructure for internal needs that didn't quite pan out as planned, but they realized the infrastructure itself was incredibly valuable.
And they made failure, or at least calculated risk-taking, part of the culture, like disagree and commit.
That's huge. It means you can voice dissent, argue your case based on data, but once a decision is made by the leader,
You commit 100%. You run the experiment,
right.
even if you disagreed. You let the results speak. No, I told you so.
Data and results trump opinions. That allows for faster iteration. Which brings us to principle 6. Speed is strategy.
In fast-moving markets, being fast is the advantage. Getting there first, iterating quickly.
Yeah, move fast, break things, fix them faster. How did they actually achieve that speed, especially as they got bigger?
Amazon's 2 pizza teams idea is famous.
Right. Keep teams small enough, 6 to 8 people, that you can feed them with 2 pizzas. Why?
Reduces communication overhead. Fewer meetings, less bureaucracy. Decisions happen faster within the small unit.
It's organizational design for speed. Decentralization.
And they also distinguish between types of decisions. This is key. Type 1 versus Type 2.
Explain that.
Type 1 decisions are the big ones. Irreversible. Like betting the company on a new direction, firing a key exec, selling a division. Those you make slowly, carefully, with lots of debate.
Okay, the one-way doors.
Exactly. But Type 2 decisions, those are reversible. Two-way doors.
Yeah.
Like launching a new website feature, testing a marketing campaign.
If it doesn't work, you can roll it back, change it.
Right. And for those Type 2 decisions, they say you don't need 100% certainty. 70% of the information is often enough.
Take the call, decide quickly, get it out there.
And then iterate based on real-world feedback. Don't wait for perfect information, because by then the opportunity might be gone.
Speed over perfection for reversible choices. Steve Jobs embodied this too, right? Real artistship.
Oh yeah. The first iPhone. Shipped without copy-paste. Without 3G support. Can you imagine?
Seems crazy now, but it shipped. It got into the market, captured imagination, defined the category.
And then they iterated like crazy, adding features later. Ship, then iterate. Speed was the strategy.
But none of this works, the speed, the failure tolerance, the long-term bets without the right people, which is principle 7. Hire slow, fire fast.
The team is the company, basically. The quality of your people dictates everything.
And the danger, as Jobs called it, is the bozo explosion.
He really called it that.
Apparently so. The theory is A players hire other A players because they want to work with the best, but B players.
They get intimidated by A players, so they hire C players.
And those C players hire D players, and suddenly your whole organization's quality just spirals downwards. Mediocrity breeds mediocrity.
So you have to be ruthless about talent acquisition. Hire slow.
Be incredibly selective. Amazon institutionalized this with the bar raiser rule. In the hiring loop, there's always someone designated as the bar raiser. Their specific job is to assess, is this candidate better than 50% of the current employees in this role or at this level?
Wow. So you only hire if they actually raise the average talent level of the team.
Exactly. The hiring process itself is designed to constantly improve the overall quality of the organization over time. It's a system for maintaining an A-player culture.
Okay, so as these companies scaled, using these principles, there's another theme. Vertical integration. Principle 8. Control your destiny.
Yeah, this seems counterintuitive sometimes. Outsourcing is often cheaper, easier, right? Let specialists handle things.
But they often chose the harder path. Integration. Bringing critical components in-house. Why?
Power. Control. Removing dependencies and vulnerabilities. If a critical part of your product or supply chain is controlled by someone else,
You're vulnerable to their timelines, their price hikes, their strategy changes.
look at Apple. Their huge advantage, their economic moat, is built on that tight integration.
Hardware, software services, they make their own chips now. Design their own OS, run their own stores.
End-to-end control. That gives them amazing user experience, yes, but also incredible pricing power and those huge gross margins, like 40% plus. Integration is their fortress.
And Musk, with the Gigafactory, is another perfect example here. Batteries were the absolute bottleneck for Tesla.
Totally. Their whole mission depended on scaling battery production way beyond what existing suppliers like Panasonic could or would do on Tesla's timeline.
So instead of just waiting and hoping,
He took control, said, fine, we'll build the world's biggest battery factory ourselves. A massive, risky bet on integration.
which also ties into another point from the sources, capital efficiency.
Yeah.
That Gigafactory bet seems incredibly capital inefficient at first glance. Billions of dollars up front.
Short term, yes, but think long term. By controlling their own battery supply, they could drive down cost per kilowatt hour dramatically, secure the volume they needed to scale car production.
And ultimately achieve their mission much faster and more reliably than if they'd relied on external suppliers.
So that massive upfront investment became incredibly capital efficient over the decade because it unlocked scale and controlled their destiny. It enabled the 10x outcome.
It removed the biggest constraint in their system.
Oh.
Okay. So the final stage, the last metamorphosis for these leaders, it seems to be about stepping back from running everything day to day.
Yeah, it's the transition from being the entrepreneur, the driver, to being the system builder, the architect of the culture.
Making sure the company can thrive without them being involved in every decision.
That's the ultimate achievement, right? Building something that lasts beyond you. Steve Jobs, in his later years, apparently focused intensely on culture, not just products.
He created Apple University.
Exactly. Not just a training center, but a place to explicitly teach Apple's unique way of thinking, their design philosophy, their decision-making processes. He was trying to codify the Apple way.
Embedding his thinking into the company's DNA so it would survive him.
Pretty much. And Bezos did something similar with his relentless focus on, it's always day one at Amazon.
That phrase is everywhere at Amazon, isn't it?
It's meant to be institutional DNA, a constant reminder to stay hungry, experimental, customer-obsessed, to fight complacency, the day-two mentality that he saw as corporate death.
So even as he prepared to step back as CEO in 2021, he'd spent years building that day-one culture to ensure the core principles would endure.
These aren't just personality quirks or leadership styles. They built repeatable, teachable, enforceable systems that reflected their core philosophies. That's the final step. System builder over just leader. Hashtag hack outro.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. We've gone through a lot of principles, but they seem to cluster, right?
Yeah, definitely. You've got the foundational mindset, first principles, 10x ambition, thinking long term.
Then the strategy. Obsessed with the customer, either through data or vision, playing that long game.
And finally, the execution. Embracing failure as learning, prioritizing speed, insisting on A-player talent, integrating vertically for control, and being capital efficient.
Our source material actually distills this down to about a dozen key points in a sort of playbook. Things like iteration, vision. It covers all the ground we discussed.
The core message, really, is that these aren't unattainable superpowers. They are operationalizable systems.
Things you, listening, could potentially apply. Maybe not building rockets tomorrow, but
You could use working backwards on a project proposal. You could apply the 70% rule to make faster type 2 decisions at work. You could consciously adopt a longer time horizon for your career goals.
yeah, the principles themselves seem learnable. But there's a catch, isn't there? The final provocative thought from our sources, it's about the price.
Right. It's not really about, can you understand these ideas? It's about, are you willing to pay the cost?
Which is what?
The question isn't, can I think in first principles? It's more like, am I ready to commit 10 plus years to a vision?
Okay.
Am I willing to be misunderstood, even ridiculed, sometimes for years on end?
Uh-huh.
Am I prepared to fail, maybe publicly and painfully, pick myself up and keep going anyway?
That's the real barrier. Not intellect, but endurance.
That seems to be the ultimate non-negotiable price of admission to play this particular game. That deep, almost irrational commitment to the long, hard path. Are you ready for that?